In BattleBots, there are rules,
and there are unwritten rules.
Stop moving, John!
The difference between those is 2 letters
and a very thin line.
Not the battery box. Anything else? Oh, he did! Holy smokes, and now Mammoth...
and sometimes it's hard to tell
just how close you are to that line.
Don't be a dick!
Today we dive into the most recent example of this debate, and why Riptide's actions were unjust. BattleBots has a history of communication. While there may not be an official method for tapping out,
We're done! We're done! There's no tapping out. There's no tapping out.
there's an unwritten rule that determines when extra hits cross the line.
That's a mean shot.
When you're okay with getting hit again, you say so.
John Melendez brought the countdown is starting. No, he owns this.
When you've had enough, you let your opponent know. It's as well established as world footballs. If the opponent kicks the ball out because your player is injured, you give the ball back. In baseball, you don't steal bases when you have a huge lead. Although the aim of the game is destroy your opponent, respect comes before anything.
BattleBots does indeed have a history of communication.
There's no official method of tapping out, which has led to some glaring examples of late hits, none of which have been given as much scrutiny as this one has.
One of the most glaring incidents I found was Tombstone versus Bombshell, where Ray Billings asks,
You want some more? You want some more?
Mike Jeffries gives no sort of communication, no sort of clarification, and Tombstone hits him multiple more times anyway, causing a very incredible amount of damage, shredding the robot, to which Mike Jeffries is very visibly displeased about. In other fights, like Son of Waiachi and Huge,
Yeah, that's no longer round.
Chip and now someone. Oh, taking it again.
Vita and Overhaul,
10, 9. Overhaul's being counted out. 7. But Vita wants some more. He can taste blood.
Tombstone versus Bronco even.
They're counting him out. 9. You want more? 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. He's going in for one more hit. My goodness.
A very relevant example as well, where Shrederator hits Sharko again after showing no signs of movement for a good 10 to 15 seconds, and even mocks the Sharko team about it.
There's movement.
It's not like that this is a very uncommon thing, and I feel as if this may just be some personal anger toward the Kurtz family, and people are using this as justification.
Whether one believes in extra hits or not, one thing that should be unanimously agreed upon is when told to stop, you should stop. And 32 seconds into the fight, Captain Shrederator tells them. This was the first instance where the Captain Shrederator team called for mercy. Instead of listening, Riptide hit him not once, not twice, but 3 more times. It's at this point where the camera cuts to a visibly annoyed Shrederator team, whose reactions are a clear second moment of communicating that they do not want any more hits.
On this point, Nick, I have to agree with you. When another team tells you to stop, you absolutely should stop. But I'm not above playing devil's advocate for Team Riptide here, and I'm not above saying that it's very possible that they couldn't have heard Shrederator's cries and pleas for them to stop.
Hit him again.
There's a thick Lexan wall separating the two teams, as well as the roar of the robots and the roar of the crowd.
And when you're in the heat of the moment in these sort of things, it's very possible that they may have just been unable to hear the Shrederator team. And it may be possible that they were just too zoned in on the fight to actually be able to notice anything like this. And I think that people around the fandom and around the community are complaining about something that they cannot for certain know the answer to.
Some have argued that Captain Shrederator kept spinning, which meant that Riptide was justified in hitting him again. But if you look closely, this is Shrederator spinning up. Moments before they yell, this is not. This is Shrederator slowing down. They landed right side up onto a peeled up side of their bottom plate that likely would have pushed their wheels off the ground. When Riptide hit him again, the only spinning done by Captain Shrederator is from Riptide hitting them. After that camera cut, Captain Shrederator attempts to spin again, giving us another chance to see the difference between spinning up and not spinning up. There's also one more moment between the final 2 hits.
Oh my goodness!
Riptide wants to send Shrederator into early retirement. fireman!
After Shrederator hits the wall, he starts to slowly roll around like a coin, moments away from settling flat. But before he can do that, Riptide hits him again.
Oh my goodness!
So, while Shrederator may have spun up at one point, Riptide still had multiple chances to back off.
While you can go back into the replays and say for certain that Shrederator is not spinning, that much may not have been clear at the time. They probably can't really tell just the extent of damage they've done to Shrederator, especially in that far corner away from the Riptide team. Shrederator is a full-body spinner, and everyone knows that if you give a full-bodied spinner time to spin up, then they become dangerous again.
30 seconds.
Riptide was staying on them as they very well should have. Now, you could make the argument that after taking such hits, Shrederator, with its notorious unreliability, was probably not able to spin up after that. However, you can't make that assumption, especially when you're in a sport as fast-paced and as dangerous as this one. You just kind of have to go off of gut feeling. Also to note, Gigabyte and free shipping happened pretty early on in the season. While Gigabyte was very obviously nowhere near to actually self-riding or getting anywhere, it took what I believe is over a full minute to get counted out when they finally stopped spinning their internals. And this is what Shred was doing. They were spinning their internals, and with their unbalanced shell, it was very possible that they could have gotten up. They were unable to because Riptide stayed on them. And while some people will fault Riptide for that, I don't think that that's something they should be faulted for. I believe that them staying on Shrederator and not giving them an inch to ever become dangerous again and completely neutralizing their target is the goal of BattleBots. You see that with a lot of tombstone fights. A lot of big spinners like to make sure that their robot can't move, and even if they think that they could be knocked out, they often hover very near them, and while Riptide took this perhaps a step too far, I don't think that they should be getting faulted as much as they are.
This is BattleBots,
Oh my God! Somebody throw in the towel!
Where the goal is to destroy your opponent beyond belief,
where suffering significant damage
and financial loss is expected.
How is Mancounter surviving this?
there's a fine balance between putting on a show
Oh my goodness!
And breaking unwritten rules.
It's not a matter of weakness,
Don't be a dick!
Nor is it a mindset that threatens the future of the sport,
it's about respect.
as competitors have established where the line is,
But maybe Riptide haven't found it yet.
Kill him!